Big Game 5 for the New York Knicks at the Garden tonight as the team will look to put the Mother's Day massacre in Indianapolis behind them and regain control of their second-round series with the Pacers. Stefan Bondy, the Knicks beat reporter for the New York Post. He's been all over the series, and he joins me now. Steph, how are you doing? How have you recovered from watching that massacre in Indy the other day?
I mean, I recovered fine. The question is how the Knicks players recovered, because they did not look like themselves. They looked about 3 steps too slow. So that is the big question heading into this game, is how did they recover and how can they bring that energy back that they showed us throughout the playoffs up until game 4. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to get into all that. And Steph, since Jalen Brunson injured his right foot in game 2, he hasn't looked like the MVP caliber player that we've seen throughout this postseason. Now, I know Brunson has said that he's fine, but what are you seeing with this game that appears to be off right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's underplaying that. I mean, people told me he's underplaying how much it's hurting him, and you saw it in the last game. I mean, every single jumper that he took in that game, and he didn't make one. He didn't make one jumper. The only points he got were either from the foul line or at the rim with a layup. So every single jumper that he took was short, and that's a telltale sign of either being hurt or tired. And, I know ESPN put up a stat. Brian Windhorst put up a stat saying he was jumping in that game, elevating on his jump shots, more than 2 inches shorter than he was during the regular season. He doesn't look the same. He hasn't looked the same since that injury. I mean, he had that amazing fourth quarter after that Willis Reed moment, but ever since then, he's been pretty inefficient. And I think the Knicks, based on how they're built right now, cannot advance unless they get a much better Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, gonna need a much better Jalen Brunson. And so that brings me to the next question here. With Brunson physically limited and OG in and OB out, which Knicks need to step up at home in Game 5?
All them dudes. Dante DiVincenzo for sure. I mean, he had a great Game 3 in Indiana and then a complete dud in Game 4. Josh Hart had a dud in Game 4. They all had duds in Game 4. And that was one thing that was pretty alarming from that game, because I had never seen it. We talk about the grit with this team. We talk about their fight. I had never seen them let go of the rope the way they did. It was a blowout from the tip to the final buzzer. And Thibodeau, who, is famously hesitant to wave the white flag and bring in the subs in garbage time, I mean, he was done with it by the end of the third quarter. It was over. So that was pretty jarring to see that. So they all need to step up. Every single one of those players played bad. The best player in Game 4 for the Knicks was Alec Burks.
Yeah, and that might be something encouraging because he played pretty well in Naptown, and we'll see if that carries over to Game 5. But following Game 4, Steph, a lot of talk around the Knicks has been that they likely are burnt out after being down so many players. Was Game 4 just an anomaly, or have the Knicks run out of gas here?
I mean, it's impossible to know. I don't know how they're going to bounce back. But, like I said, that was a pretty jarring watch to see. And, it's difficult to know whether that was mental fatigue, whether that was physical fatigue. But there's no question they're shorthanded at this point. They're down to, the bones, the Villanova bones, as I called them. And they really need help, as I said before, and you mentioned, from everybody on the roster, because this is going to take a total team effort to bring it to get to the conference finals for the first time since 2000.
Yeah, it's going to take a team effort to get it done. Last thing for me, Steph, what adjustments do you think, if any, the Knicks need to make in Game 5, and what are the keys to winning this pivotal game in front of the home crowd tonight?
Well, I think one adjustment that I'd like to see, and I don't know if Tom is going to do it, is putting Miles McBride into the starting lineup over Precious Achiuwa. I think that with the play of Alec Burks now, you now have, I mean, before Miles McBride was the only a guard coming off the bench. You now have some depth at that position, and that would allow Precious Achiuwa to become the backup center. I think Jericho Sims looked a little overwhelmed in the minutes that he got. So I think that could help the team. And also, it gives them another ball handler with Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson, like we talked about, is not 100%. And he could use somebody bringing up the ball instead of him that Because bringing up the ball on Aaron Nesmith when Nesmith is just all over him, that's got to be exhausting. So that would be the one big adjustment I'd like to see from Tom Thibodeau in Game 5.
Obviously, Knicks would be a little bit smaller there, but you're right. Could help Brunson in terms of the responsibilities of bringing up the ball, save his energy. Maybe he gets a little bit more lift on his shot in Game 5. That is Stefan Bondy, Knicks beat writer for the New York Post. He will be at Game 5. I will be there with him. Steph, I'll see you later. We'll see how this all shakes out.
I'll see you, man.